What up, everybody? As episode 8 concluded with Jannard taking out Tommy's brother JP, episode 9 concludes with Tommy taking out Jannard's brother Diamond inadvertently as he was gunning for Jannard. Diamond stepped in front of the bullets to save Jannard's life, as he told Tommy earlier in the episode that he wouldn't let him kill his brother. And he proved that by sacrificing his own life to save Jannard right after apologizing to Jannard, letting Jannard know that he brought him into the life to keep him close to him, and also that he shouldn't have chose Tommy over him when he got out of prison. While in return, Jannard lied to Diamond, telling him that he was clean, but Diamond still sacrificed his life to save his brother. While another brotherhood officially came to an end this episode as well, as D-Mac took out his brother Marshall after Marshall was assigned by Jannard to take out D-Mac but couldn't do it. But because D-Mac is grieving and Marshall chose to be loyal to Jannard and not give D-Mac his location, D-Mac took out his brother that he had been best friends with since they were 6 years old. And to me, that was the biggest surprise of the episode, and Marshall definitely didn't see it coming either. But that just goes to show how dark of a place D-Mac is in right now, and where he's at mentally after losing his father. As the episode starts off with Tommy and D-Mac at a funeral home, with Tommy giving a man money to keep it quiet and to make sure that JP had a nice casket. And when he asked D-Mac if he wanted to say any final words, D-Mac said no, he's gone and just wanted to get out of there. While Diamond started out the episode getting his final hooking up with Madame Wu. So maybe we'll find out at the end of the series, or even in Legacy, that Diamond might have got Madame Wu pregnant, and there might be a little Diamond running around one day. But after they finished, Jannard walked in and told Diamond the news, how he took out JP, King Kilo, and JoJo, and also let him know that Tommy knew it was him because he was on the phone when it happened. So Jannard's plan was to sell it to the RDs that it was JP who killed King Kilo and JoJo. But when Diamond told Jannard that Che wouldn't sanction it, Jannard put the next move into play, and that was to flip from Che to the Marquez cartel, as Roberto Ortega had just been released from jail. But when Gray Skull and the RDs heard about King Kilo's death, they also wanted D-Mac dead. So because of that, Jannard told Marshall that he had to be the one to take him out because D-Mac wouldn't see it coming from him. After Ortega's release from custody, the judge gave the feds a leave to refile. So Delgado had been going through everything concerning the case to make sure they didn't miss anything, and found the footage of Mirkovich meeting with Chan right before he died. And Delgado said that Chan doesn't even exist as a lawyer. So Chan isn't a real lawyer. His name wasn't in the Illinois or any other state bar. He also told DeFranco that he had no criminal history or anything like that as well. So Sang must have got Chan some kind of credentials so he can move around like he's a lawyer. When Bobby asked what Sang was saying about it, she revealed to him that he was interrogating Vic Flynn, as Sang got Vic to make a written statement connecting Tommy to Stacy and proving that she was dirty, and agreed if Vic did that they would leave him alone and he'd be a free man. So after Vic made his written statement, he hopped on a private plane with Ray to leave Chicago. After Tommy made arrangements for JP, it was straight to preparing for war and trying to find where Jannard was, as Tommy questioned Shanti's loyalty and making sure she wasn't protecting Jannard, and she let Tommy know she was about business. And Miguel told Tommy that he had to drop on Roberto Ortega's location, but Tommy was more concerned about going after Jannard and told Miguel that they would divide and conquer. Miguel would go after Ortega, and that he would go after Gennard, and they would meet back at Miguel's spot at 1 o'clock to give Che his money. Tommy then went and caught a body real quick when he questioned Smurf and another guy from CBI about where Gennard was, and shot the guy who said he would flip and tried taking the bag of money, but said he didn't know where Gennard was, while Tommy respected Smurf's loyalty and let him live. At this point, Tommy also gave Smurf the news that Gennard was getting high again. When Diamond and Gennard went to meet with Ortega, Ortega was about to have one of his men take out Gennard, still wanting revenge for Tommy taking out his uncle Luis. But Ortega spared Gennard when he found out that Gennard killed Tommy's brother, and Diamond told him that they were ready to flip and bring the coalition to the Marquez cartel. But Ortega told them to not go after Tommy because he still wants Tommy to be his kill. But Diamond and Gennard had already put the play in motion with the RDs to go after Tommy, and as Tommy was getting a phone call from Miguel letting him know that he had eyes on Ortega and had found out that Diamond and Gennard were meeting with him, the RDs pulled up and were about ready to take Tommy out when Che's men, who had been following Tommy, pulled up and wiped out 5 RDs. This is similar to how in OG Power, when the Jamaicans were about to take out Ghost, and Milan, known as Dean at the time, was following Ghost and wiped out the Jamaican hitters. But after taking out the RDs, Che's men snatched Tommy up because Che had got word that Tommy and Miguel were about to go to war against the Marquez cartel. Che also knew that Mireya was pregnant, so a big question is, who's giving Che all this information? But Tommy got Che to let him and Miguel go when he told him that Diamond and Gennard had flipped to the Marquez cartel. So at that point, Che needed Tommy and Miguel alive to keep his pipeline in Chicago going. So because of that, Che gave Tommy and Miguel the green light to take out the Marquez cartel and CBI. But because Tommy hadn't paid his money yet that he owed Che, Che said that Miguel had to stay with him until he did. So Tommy had Shanti drop the money off to Che, and she told Che that she was Tommy's new business partner. But Che threatened her not to come by herself to any more meetups without Tommy with her. And when Tommy was leaving, he was checking his phone and had a bunch of missed calls and text messages from D-Mac trying to get in contact with him. But when he showed up at JP's house, D-Mac had already left, and Kate was now there after Mireya called her because Tommy wasn't even planning on calling Kate, saying that she would make it all about herself. After Che's men took out 5 of the RDs to save Tommy, Gray Skull and the RDs showed up at Diamond's basement again, saying that Tommy took out 5 of their guys, thinking that Tommy took them all out by himself, not knowing what really happened. But at this point, Diamond let them know that they had to push pause on taking Tommy out because they had just connected with Roberto Ortega, and Ortega wants to take Tommy out himself. But Gray Skull still wanted D-Mac dead and let Diamond and Gennard know that if D-Mac wasn't dead by the end of the day, that they were going to be at war with another crew. But because D-Mac couldn't get a hold of Tommy, he went looking for Gennard himself and showed up at Marshall's. And Marshall tried telling him that he needed to get out of town because there was a price on his head, and even pulled his gun on D-Mac, but couldn't take him out because they were like brothers. Only for D-Mac to end up killing Marshall for not telling him where Gennard was, like I talked about at the beginning of the video. But notice that after D-Mac shot Marshall, his blood went on the fridge, where there was 4 pictures of D-Mac and Marshall together. And after, D-Mac then went to talk to Genesis and basically confessed to her that he killed Marshall. After Tommy found out that Kate was back in town, Mireya said that she would handle Kate, and when they were looking for something for JP to wear, Kate figured out that Mireya was pregnant, keeping in mind that she was also around Holly when she was pregnant, but she was getting high at that point in time. So now that Kate is sober, she figured out pretty quick that Mireya was pregnant. At this point, Kate mentioned burying another son, meaning talking about Ghost's death, either though I don't even think she was at Ghost's funeral. But she asked Mireya if Tommy ever talked about Ghost, and Mireya said that he does a little. But Mireya is still struggling with the thought of raising her child around the life and asked Kate how she dealt with it. And Kate told her that she used to deal with it by doing coke and drinking. So that didn't help things with Mireya too much. And later in the episode, when Tommy and them went to battle, Kate walked in on Mireya on the phone and overheard her talking about getting a one-way ticket to Mexico that was leaving the next day. And Kate asked Mireya if she was trying to leave her son. When Sang went to talk to DeFranco and Delgado after letting Vic go, he let them know that Vic connected Tommy to Stacy, but there wasn't enough to make an arrest yet, and that he was going to have to build a case because there was no evidence from the crime scene that they could use, keeping in mind that Bobby took the phone from the crime scene. But at this point, Delgado let Bobby know that through facial recognition, she found out that Chan attends a place called the Tortoise Club and sent him to check into him and let him know that if he went after Tommy, she would have him arrested for interfering with a federal investigation. So because of that, Bobby went to the Tortoise Club to track Chan and saw him meeting up with none other than Bill Sang, and took pictures with his phone of Sang meeting with Chan. Then Jannard found out from Bones and Raheem that Marshall got killed, and because of that he went looking to take out Tommy himself. But when Raheem told him about Marshall, he also could tell that Jannard was high as a kite. But Jannard didn't find Tommy. He found Kate leaving a corner store, driving Tommy's car, but didn't end up killing her because she started screaming. So when Tommy got the news and went to check on Kate, she described Jannard to Tommy, and he figured out that it was Jannard who came for his mom. And because of that, he had Kate and Mireya leave JP's old house and go to Little Village to stay at Miguel's. And when they were leaving, Kate mentioned a baby being on the way. So Tommy found out that Mireya told Kate she was pregnant. When they got to Little Village, Shanti revealed to Tommy that she had an inside man in CBI and that she would get the info to make a move. At this point, D-Mac also showed up at Little Village and let Tommy know that he had killed Marshall and was ready to make a move to take out Jannard next. When Diamond and Jannard met back up at the church that CBI was hiding out at, Diamond asked Jannard if he was high when he found out that he went after Kate, and if that was why he was doing all this. And Jannard lied to Diamond and said no, that he hadn't been getting high. But he also told Diamond some of Miguel's crew had been seen in the area, so Diamond figured out that they had a snitch in their crew. At this point, Jannard even told Diamond that Tommy wanted him and not Diamond, and that he didn't even have to be there. But Diamond let Jannard know that he was his brother and they were in this together. But all the CBI wasn't at this church. Diamond had said that Smurf and some of the other guys were guarding their stash spots to make sure Tommy didn't do anything funny, keeping in mind how Tommy and Diamond had burnt down one of Miguel's stash spots earlier in the season. But as Diamond and Jannard thought they were good inside the church with plenty of protection outside, Raheem was plotting outside, handing out tainted bottled waters that dropped all the guards, and he took out the guy who didn't take the water himself. After that, Raheem gave Shanti the green light for them to make their move, and at this point Tommy and everybody came storming in the church, gunning for Jannard, including D-Mac, and because D-Mac left himself exposed, he ended up getting shot in the shoulder. And I think Tommy being distracted, worrying about D-Mac is also part of the reason why Diamond had time to jump in front of Jannard and take the bullets for him when Tommy shot at Jannard. But during this shootout, Jannard also figured out who the snitch was, as it showed him looking over at Raheem. But notice that Diamond didn't only save Gennard, but he also saved Tommy from Gennard shooting him as well, knocking the gun down as he stepped in front of Gennard. So Diamond died in a very emotional ending, very similar to the second to last episode of Power Book 2 and how Monet went out saving Kane. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.